Hi, everybody. I'm Jenny Yoga Puncturist, and I want to thank you for joining my class on how the mind body spirit connection influences manifestation. So, a lot of us already have, or many of us already have, some of our really good habits in place. We are meditating, we're eating our breakfast, we're hydrating, we are showing up, we're making our plans, we are following our plans, we're being active participants in trying to make our dreams come true, in manifesting all of our dreams and desires. And yet sometimes it's like you hustle, 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 and it's not quite enough. There's some little glitch. Something is not quite fitting. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you feel like you're doing the right things and you're just missing one piece or something isn't quite clicking, this is going to give you 3 tips to improve the way that you're manifesting so that things work out better for you, so that you're actually getting your heart's desire. So I want to start by saying that we are trained by the American healthcare system to see things in parts. So we separate the body from the mind, from the spirit. And we don't, we're just now realizing what an integral part our physical health has on our mental health. Not just because if we look good, we feel good, but if your gut health is strong, your mental health is also strong. And we're not trained that way. We're trained to separate everything out. And even within that, you go to your doctor, and who are you going to see? Are you going to see the cardiologist? Are you going to see, you know, the orthopedist? Are you going to see your ophthalmologist? Like, it's separated into specialties, and you're not seen as a complete and entire being, a whole perfect self. So it's so, so, so important that we integrate all of these aspects, because you can you can focus on working out all the time and getting that exercise in. But if you're not eating right for your body type, or you're not eating a clean diet, or you're not mindful of what you're putting into your body, then that exercise isn't going to be maximized. You're not going to get the max benefits from all of the effort and energy that you're putting into this activity. Or if you're eating really clean, but you're not making time to laugh or sleep well, then it's not as beneficial if you're eating clean. So you want to have all of these. And you want to actually make time for that spiritual aspect. And it doesn't really matter what your spiritual preference is, as long as you are making time to do good breathing practices, to do meditation, to connect with your higher self or with the higher power if that's what you follow. And really setting that time aside to actually hear the inner voices, to hear what your heart is actually telling you is right for you. Because if we're not, that's another thing, if we're not on the right path, then we're not, it doesn't matter how much you hustle. If you're not in alignment with your best self, with your best life, then you're always going to feel like you're swimming upstream, or like going against the grain, and nothing is ever easy and nothing ever flows. So all of those aspects are super important. You can't leave any of them out. The same way that if you are using all of your logic, but you're not listening to your gut or listening to your intuition, you're only getting half of the story. You're only getting half of the information, and you want all of that information so that you have the best amount of the best tools to make your dreams come true, to manifest the things that are going to lead you towards your best life, put you on the best path. Because it's not enough to show up, do your job, pay your bills, raise your kids, and cook your dinner. That's okay. But what if you actually spent more time in the things that you loved and spent less time in the things that you dread, and still managed to get all of the things done? So if your preference is to spend more time with your children having fun, there is a way for you to manifest that while teaching them really good habits and behaviors, and still get the tasks or the chores done, and have more joy in your life. So all of these aspects that are fulfilled in your life. You can have joy and still make a good salary that allows you to have a healthy life, because the reality is we can want all the peace, love, and harmony in the world, but we still need electricity, we still need water, we still need to participate and be a contributing person in society. And if you are happier, by default, everyone you touch, everyone you interact with is affected by that joy, is affected by that positivity, is affected by that higher vibe, because you're just raising the vibration of the room, of the people around you every time you walk in somewhere. So, as I was saying before, you can dream, you can put in the work for the physical labor of getting up and going to work and making the budget and saving the money, and you can get up and eat the clean food, but what is your vibration saying? We're all just frequencies. And if you want to attract something to you, then you just have to vibrate on that frequency. That's all manifestation is. So it's raising your vibration to bring the things that you want and deserve into your life. So you have to ask yourself, what is my energy saying? What is my vibration saying? What does my attitude say? What is my what is my face saying when I'm not speaking but I'm thinking? You want to check in with yourself and see where your vibrations are. Are you hanging out with groups of people that are low vibration, that have bad attitudes or aren't motivated or aren't in the same, don't have the same moral or spiritual alignment? It doesn't mean that it's good or bad. It's just not in agreement with your vibration. And you want to match things like you, and be attracted to things higher than you so that you can vibrate higher, because that's how you're going to attract those things to you. Whatever those things are, be it wisdom, knowledge, health, happiness, a higher paying job, whatever it is that you're after, the principles are the same. So once you figure out, you know, what your vibration is saying, what are you putting in your body, all of these things, how do you go about changing it? How do you make it different so that you're getting to where you're getting on the path of where you want to be, instead of being on the path that you're on? And that changing your vibration comes down to making little changes in every aspect of your life. So you everything vibrates. So we are just a series of vibrations and frequencies bumping into each other. I am bumping into this shirt. This shirt is bumping into my skin. The phone that I'm talking on is bumping into the stand that it's holding. It's just frequencies and vibrations. So when you look at it that way, are the places that you're going, are the people that you are speaking to, are the relationships that you are in, be they romantic or family or friendships, are they where you want to be? Are they making you feel light and happy when you're leaving those places, or when you enter those places, or when you see those faces? Are you feeling better, or do you feel drained? Do you feel dread every time that phone rings and you see who it is and you're like, that's a low vibration. That's not where you want to be. So if you're having, if you're finding yourself in those environments, or you're finding yourself around those people, then you need to shift the way that you are behaving, or where you are going, or your interaction with those people. Sometimes if it's a coworker, you can't necessarily avoid them. If it's a family member, you can't necessarily avoid them. So you have to shift your perspective so that they can't bring you down, but if anything, you bring them up a little bit. And that doesn't mean actively lift them up and interact with them, just by being in the room with them. If they're more negative and you are unaffected by that, then they have no choice but to either get away or start vibrating a little higher and being less negative and less dense or heavy. The way that we breathe changes our frequency. Whether or not we're meditating or engaging in prayer or gratitude and mindfulness, it doesn't even have to be a religious sense. It can just be standing out in the park and being amazed at the awesomeness of giant redwoods or a mountain. Like, it's so simple to just be to recognize how small you are on this planet and within this universe. Exercising is also going to change your vibration. I feel like that's a little bit of an obvious one, because if you're exercising, you have an endorphin release and you feel better. When you feel happy, when you feel good, you are vibrating higher. And it's not about feeling happy all the time. It is healthy to have all of the emotions, but you want the greater portion of your life to be joyful, to have a sense of like contentment and gratitude. We're all going to have bad days. We're all going to fall into the negative trap. That's a part of being human. That's a part of evolving as we go through life. But you don't want to live there. You don't want to live in that stagnant, heavy, negative energy. You want to be living in the light, in the joy. That's the whole point. When we experience disease, that is when something is so out of frequency, it's so out of it's supposed to, when we are healthy, our entire body vibrates at a specific frequency. Each of our organs vibrates at its own frequency. That's how we go from being an orchestra to this beautiful symphony. So we have all of these different instruments playing at a different frequency, and that makes up our entire body. And each of us is a little different. We all have our own little orchestra. But when somebody is out of tune, when somebody is behind in time, that is noticeable in the entire orchestra. It doesn't just affect that one instrument or that one organ, it affects the entire body. When you don't feel good, your attitude is not as good, your motivation is not as high, your commitment to yourself and to your habits isn't as strong. You're willing to let it go so that you can sleep a little extra or not have to deal with it just to catch a break. But that, and again, within reason, you don't want to get caught up in those habits. Taking a day off, taking an extra day to rest because your body has asked you for that is totally fine. But when you get caught up in leaving your good habits and leaving your good routines, you just start to lose energy and vibration. And it's like getting stuck in molasses. It's much harder to get out of it than it is to get into it. So how do we really, really change our frequencies and truly manifest what we desire and deserve? One, we want to be mindful. Like I mentioned earlier, be mindful of your environment, be mindful of your relationships, be mindful of your own thoughts about yourself as well as others. We're always taught, to think kind thoughts and say kind words, but that needs to apply to you too. So if you didn't get something quite right, don't be horrible to yourself. Don't be really mean or overly critical. I like to tell people, never be more critical than you would to your own child or to your own nephew or to your younger sibling. If you wouldn't say that to them or say it in that way to them, then don't say that to yourself. It's that simple. You want to be mindful, like I said, not just of your thoughts and your actions towards others, but to yourself and to your environment. 3 ways that you can consistently be mindful or put it into practice, because it does take practice. You don't just wake up one day and say, well, I'm mindful now, and there I am, mindfulness. It's a practice. You have to make it a habit. So you have to interrupt your thoughts. If you know that when you look in a full-length mirror, you pick your nose apart because of this or that, then in that instant, you need to remind yourself in a way that feels good for you that that's not important, that it is untrue, that it is inaccurate. And you don't have to stand in front of the mirror and say an affirmation if that feels uncomfortable for you. You can put on your favorite song and bop around the room, or just change what you're doing. Walk away from the mirror and give yourself a treat. Maybe a treat is, I like chocolate covered goji berries, and you just interrupt that behavior. You want to ask yourself, when you are in public and you find that something is bringing you down, is this my business? So do I have to deal with this? Do I have to be present for this situation? Do I have to be in this environment? Is it my business? If not, if it makes you feel bad, get out of there. There's no reason why you have to stay in a situation, in a current situation that makes you feel heavy or unwell or not your best. And that being said, you want to ask yourself, how do I feel around this person? How do I feel when I go here? When I answer the phone and it's so and so, how do I feel? And, how do I feel when I am angry and I'm shouting at people? If it's making you feel bad, shift that perspective and start to transform the way that you communicate or where you're going or where you're spending your time. We need to remember that our first, first responsibility is to you. Most of us were born alone, except for the the twins and the triplets and the multiple babies, but most of us are born alone. And it's great that we have friendships and we have relationships, but we are walking this path alone. Nobody can do things in place of you. They can't take your burden. They can support you, they can make you feel less alone. And as much as some of us would love to take that away from those people so they don't even have to experience that pain, without well-intentioned but misguided, because we don't want to do that, but as much as we'd love to, we can't. That person has to live their life, has to walk their path. So you just want to be continually mindful of the fact that you have to worry about you first, and when you're doing that, your family is better off for it. I'm not saying be selfish. Be mindful that you are not always last, that you are not always ignoring yourself, that you are not always putting yourself out to make others feel better or for someone else's benefit. My second tip is to be aware. Be aware of what you eat, because you are what you eat. So if you are eating clean, if you are eating vegetables that are grown in a healthy and sustainable manner, that is going to be a higher vibration for you. If you are someone who consumes animal protein, then you're going to want to consume animal protein that maybe isn't farmed in a commercial manner, because that we don't have the happiest farming practices in this country. And the same way that we are the protein that we eat, we are the energy that we eat. So if you are eating a low vibration, unhappy, distressed animal, that is what you are taking in. I feel like that's part of why we see so much anxiety and depression in this country, because we're eating so many of these animals that are farmed in a way that is sad and miserable for them. And then we're consuming that because we are not aware of how true you are what you eat means. And that can apply to simple things like vegetables. You are what you eat. If you eat grapes, grapes look like the inside of lungs. Those are really healthy for your lungs. If you eat carrots, when you slice a carrot, it looks like the eye. They're really healthy for your eyes. So just be aware and play with those ideas. Um, and you are what you believe. So be aware of what your real beliefs are. Do you believe that you deserve the things you're trying to manifest? If there's a disconnect with what you logically know you want or believe that you should have based on society or based on just a desire, do you actually feel like you deserve that? So if you are seeking a partner, someone that you want to spend a long-term commitment with, but you don't actually feel worthy of somebody that is trustworthy and loyal and loving and all of the things, or can love you in the way that you need to be loved, then you can put in all the work, but you're not going to get the result because you're doing it, but you're not in it. Your heart is not completely connected. Your spirit is not completely connected. Your mind knows how to do it. Your body is putting in the work, but your heart is not there. So you have to make sure that you're aware of what you're actually believing about yourself, believing about others, and believing about the world around you. And my third tip is to be in tune. So if you're trying to manifest, you're trying, I just spoke on that a minute ago. If you're trying to manifest something that you don't actually desire, you can put in all the work, you can put in all the time, you can put in all the belief, you can chant all the mantras, you can do all the exercise, you can eat super clean, and it's going to be hard for you to attain that goal. So, like I mentioned before, if you don't believe you deserve it, that is one obstacle. If you want it because someone has ingrained in you that you want this, be it cultural or familial or your friends or whatever it is, or maybe it's something you wanted in the past, but it's no longer in line with who you are today, then you can do all the work and it's always going to be a struggle. So you want to be in tune with who you are today, what you're actually feeling today, where you want to be, not who you were. We don't want to lose the past. We want to use that as a memory of how we got to where we are. But it is okay to change your mind. It is okay to be mid-career in a career that you worked really hard for and say, this doesn't fit me anymore. I need to be moving in this direction, because it doesn't matter what direction that other direction is. If it's truly in alignment with you and with your spirit and with your whole self, then it's going to be a successful for you. You will be successful in whatever that is because it is in alignment with your true self. So that being said, you want to sit with that. You want to spend time alone and actually ask yourself, like, without restriction, full on daydream, no rules, no regulations. If I could do whatever I wanted, what would I do? And if it's be Spider-Man, then be Spider-Man, but figure out how to translate that into a world where we live. And there is always a translation. There's always a way for you to shift it around and be able to get what you want. I, when I was little, didn't think that I was going to be able to make potions all day and make people feel better with things that I found in my kitchen. And here I am, an acupuncturist and an herbalist, making herbs, making people feel better with things that I find in my kitchen and stretches, like mindfulness practices and thoughts and breath. So I don't actually need tools, and I'm just able to be the healer that I want. I didn't know how it was going to manifest, but I knew that if I stayed on that path, that I knew if I really worked at just following that intuitive dream, then I would eventually find my way. I encourage you to daydream frequently. Keep those daydreams in a journal, give it lots of details. Don't put rules on yourself, especially things like age or time, because things always work themselves out. So you just want to focus on being in tune. Don't focus on all the little details and how they'll sort themselves out. That being said, this is what YogaRx is all about. I love teaching women how to listen to their bodies, connect to the divine, and cultivate joy. That's like my ultimate. I do it with 3 pillars. I do education, nutrition, and yogic principles. So my favorite part is the education, because I'm giving you the tools for how to do all the things through your entire life. So if you compare it to a diet versus a style of eating. So a diet, you're on a short period of time, you're on a very regimented cycle, but when you come off of that period of time, it doesn't always stick. The habits and the changes don't always stick. When you have a life or an eating style, if you're a health style, then you have the tools to modify what you're doing at any point in your life. And that's what I'm trying to do. I love being able to give you tools that you can apply now or in 10 years, or use to help your kids, or use to help your parents, or use to help your best friend, because now you have that tool and you can wield that tool and apply it anywhere that you need. Second, we do nutrition. So you may think that you're eating right. People love to get on keto. They love to go carb free. They love to go gluten free. And I'm not against these if it's right for your body type. So if it's not the right diet for you, it doesn't matter how hard you work at it, how strict you are, it's not going to work. So the first thing you want to do is figure out, what is your body type? How do I eat for it? What is my lifestyle? What supplements do I need so that I can encourage my body to function at its best? Because when you eat better, when you feel better, mentally, you feel better. And then your habits, your practices, your manifestation is much easier to carry out. And finally, yogic principles. Stretching, moving the body is the best way to change the mind. You can talk yourself in and out of any idea, any side of any idea. You can switch yourself back and forth if you argue with yourself long enough. But when you're breathing in a certain way, when you're moving in a certain way, the mind becomes quiet, the mind becomes still, the intuition becomes clearer. What your heart actually is trying to tell you becomes much easier to hear. Connecting to your higher self, to your more aligned, more self-actualized version of yourself, is so much easier when you don't have all of that internal chatter from your mind of the things that you didn't do, or the things that someone said, or where you're supposed to be going, or whatever it may be. And breathing is so important. So many of us breathe just in our chest. We don't take full belly breaths. When we don't take full belly breaths, our cells don't get the oxygen they need. When they don't get the oxygen they need, they don't function at their peak. They're not functioning at their peak. Mentally, your mind is not clear. If your mind is not clear, how are you going to manifest anything? So always breathe. YogaRx is a 90-day commitment to your higher self. It's designed for the whole self and will transform your physical, mental, and spiritual health. For your free 30-minute consultation, text YogaRx to 813-773-4934. There will be links in the description. I'm so glad that you guys could join me. Stay tuned for more videos and helpful information on mental, physical, and spiritual wellness. I'm Jenny, Yogi Puncturist.